Before you decide he's done, before you say he quit, he disappeared, he doesn't have it anymore, before you mistake silence for surrender, let me tell you something the world forgets too easily. Some people don't leave to escape, they leave to prepare. Before you think he's never coming back, understand this: not every disappearance is a defeat. Some exits are intentional. Some pauses are necessary. The world is loud, impatient, and addicted to instant results. But greatness has never moved on the world's timeline. Silence doesn't mean he gave up. Silence often means he's listening to life, listening to failure, listening to the lessons success couldn't teach him. While everyone else was talking, posting, explaining, he was becoming. And becoming takes time. Silence has a bad reputation. In a world addicted to noise, people assume that if someone isn't speaking, posting, reacting, or proving themselves, then they must be losing. But silence is not emptiness, it's intention. It's the moment when a person decides that energy is better spent on alignment than explanation. While others are busy defending their position, he is strengthening his foundation. Silence becomes a shield, protecting focus from distraction and purpose from unnecessary interference. Understand this: strategy doesn't always look aggressive. Sometimes the most powerful move is restraint. Silence is where observation sharpens instinct. It's where patterns are studied instead of reacted to. When you stop responding to everything, you start seeing everything clearly. He isn't ignoring the world. He's reading it. He's watching who panics, who rushes, who reveals their intentions the moment pressure shows up. Silence gives him information, and information is leverage. People often mistake silence for fear because they don't understand discipline. Fear is loud. Fear over-explains. Fear needs reassurance. Silence, on the other hand, is controlled. It means emotions are being managed, not unleashed. It means decisions are being delayed until wisdom replaces impulse. When he goes quiet, it's not because he has nothing to say. It's because he's choosing when and where his voice will matter most. Silence also creates space to rebuild identity without outside influence. When the noise fades, there's no applause to chase and no criticism to dodge. That's when truth surfaces. That's when a person confronts who they are without the mask. In silence, weaknesses stop hiding behind charisma. In silence, habits are exposed. And in that uncomfortable honesty, real growth begins. Silence strips ego and replaces it with clarity. While the world keeps score publicly, silence allows progress to happen privately. No announcements, no countdowns, no promises made too early. Just consistent, unseen work stacking day after day. The kind of work that doesn't need motivation because it's fueled by conviction. So when silence finally breaks, it won't be with excuses or explanations. It will be with results already standing in the room. Growth does not perform well on stage. It doesn't look impressive while it's happening. That's why most people avoid it. The spotlight demands polish, confidence, and consistency. But growth is messy. Growth asks questions before it gives answers. It stumbles, it pauses, it repeats lessons until they're learned the hard way. Away from the spotlight, there's room to be imperfect without being judged, to fail without being labeled, to learn without being rushed. When no one is watching, excuses lose their power. There's no image to protect, no reputation to maintain. That's when effort becomes honest. In the quiet, work stops being about applause and starts being about progress. Every repetition done alone matters more than any performance done for approval. Because what's built in private doesn't collapse in public. The spotlight can expose talent, but only the dark can develop it. The spotlight often pressures people to stay who they were instead of becoming who they need to be. Expectations freeze growth. Once the world decides who you are, it resists your transformation. Stepping away is sometimes the only way to evolve without interference. In isolation, he is free to unlearn what no longer serves him, free to rebuild habits, sharpen skills, and strengthen weaknesses without commentary from the crowd. Away from attention, patience is restored. There is no need to rush results to prove worth. Time stretches, allowing depth instead of surface-level success. Growth takes time because it changes not just what you do, but how you think. It reshapes instincts. It rewires reactions. And none of that can be hurried for the sake of appearances. True growth respects the process, even when the process is slow. The spotlight celebrates outcomes, not preparation. But preparation is where greatness is born. Long before the world sees confidence, it's rehearsed in doubt. Long before strength is displayed, it's built under strain. Growth away from the spotlight allows repetition without recognition. It allows mistakes without consequences. And those quiet corrections accumulate into mastery that looks effortless later. When he steps back into the light, people will say it happened overnight. They'll say he was lucky. They won't see the long hours of obscurity, the discipline that replaced comfort, the consistency that outlasted motivation. But that's the point. Growth was never meant to be witnessed. It was meant to be effective. A real comeback doesn't start with confidence. It starts with humility. It begins the moment a person admits that what worked before won't work again. That the old version, no matter how successful, is no longer enough for where they're going. Humility is the willingness to learn again, to listen instead of speak, to accept correction without resentment. Without humility, there is no growth, only repetition disguised as progress. Pride wants to return the same way it left, loud, certain, and undefeated. But humility understands that life doesn't reward entitlement. It rewards evolution. To come back stronger, a person must first kneel mentally to the process, to the lessons, to the reality that mistakes were made. This is not weakness. This is alignment. Humility clears the clutter of ego so wisdom can take its place. The hardest part of humility is accepting obscurity. Being unseen after once being recognized tests the soul. It forces a person to separate self-worth from status. When applause disappears, identity is challenged. Humility answers that challenge by choosing purpose over pride, by staying committed even when no one is watching, by doing the work without demanding acknowledgement. That quiet consistency builds a strength that arrogance can never imitate. Humility also teaches patience. A comeback cannot be rushed. Timing matters. Readiness matters. Humility allows a person to wait without resentment and prepare without pressure. It replaces urgency with understanding. Instead of forcing doors open, humility sharpens the key. It understands that arriving too early can be just as damaging as arriving unprepared. When the comeback finally happens, humility keeps it grounded. There is no need to boast, explain, or seek validation. The work speaks clearly enough. Success becomes stewardship instead of ego fuel. And that is what makes the return sustainable. Because a comeback built on humility isn't about proving others wrong. It's about honoring the lessons that made coming back possible. Pain is not an interruption to purpose. It is the entrance fee. Anyone chasing comfort will always misunderstand pain. But anyone chasing meaning learns to respect it. Pain shows up when purpose is near, not when it's absent. It arrives to test seriousness, to ask one honest question: how badly do you want this? Because purpose that costs nothing is rarely protected when pressure arrives. Pain exposes motives. When things hurt, shortcuts reveal themselves, and excuses lose their shine. That's when people quit. Not because they can't continue, but because continuing forces them to confront parts of themselves they've been avoiding. Pain removes illusion. It strips away false confidence and replaces it with something more durable, resilience. Not the kind that talks tough, but the kind that endures quietly. Every meaningful calling demands sacrifice, time, relationships, comfort, certainty. Pain is the signal that a trade is being made. Something old is being exchanged for something necessary. Growth hurts because it stretches capacity. Discipline hurts because it resists habit. Change hurts because it demands identity shift. Pain is not proof you're failing. It's proof you're being reshaped. Pain also teaches empathy. Those who've endured it move differently. They listen more. They judge less. They understand struggle without needing explanation. Purpose rooted in pain carries depth, not arrogance. It serves instead of dominates. Pain humbles ambition and gives it direction. Without pain, purpose becomes shallow, focused on self instead of impact. Most importantly, pain builds credibility with oneself. Surviving moments you thought would break you creates internal trust. You stop doubting your ability to endure. You stop fearing hard seasons. Pain becomes familiar, not comfortable, but understood. And once pain no longer scares you, purpose has room to expand without limits. Time is not neutral. It doesn't treat everyone the same. Time exposes comfort and refines calling. Those who seek ease grow impatient with delay, but those who are called understand that waiting is part of the assignment. Time stretches them, slows them down, and forces them to mature beyond impulse. What looks like delay to the comfortable is development to the committed. The comfortable fight time. They rush outcomes, demand quick results, and measure progress by speed. But calling requires depth, not haste. Time adds weight to wisdom. It allows lessons to repeat until they are embodied, not just understood. You can hear advice once and forget it, but when time makes you live it, it becomes instinct. That's refinement. Time also removes what doesn't belong. Weak habits, shallow motives, false alliances. They don't survive prolonged waiting. Only what's real remains. The call, don't waste the waiting season complaining. They use it to sharpen discernment. They learn who to trust, what to release, and where their true strength lies. Time teaches patience, not as passivity, but as discipline under control. Being refined by time means resisting the urge to compare. Comparison shortens patience and poisons purpose. Time demands focus on personal progress, not public timelines. Some paths are longer because they're built to carry more weight. Time ensures the structure can hold what's coming. Without it, success collapses under its own pressure. In the end, time doesn't reward talent alone. It rewards endurance. The comfortable quit when waiting feels inconvenient. The called stay when waiting feels heavy. And that endurance reshapes them into something unshakable. When time is done refining, what remains is not rushed, not fragile, and not accidental. It is ready. A true return does not ask to be accepted. It arrives aligned. When a person has been shaped by silence, sharpened by pain, and refined by time, they no longer seek approval. Permission is for the unprepared. Rattiness announces itself without words. When he returns, it won't be with explanations, justifications, or apologies for disappearing. His presence will be enough to answer every question that once surrounded his absence. Needing permission comes from uncertainty. It comes from depending on external validation to confirm internal belief. But the work done in isolation eliminates that dependency. He knows what he's built because he built it when no one was watching. Confidence born in solitude is quiet but immovable. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg. It simply stands. People may try to measure his return against the past, who he was, what he used to do, how he left. But he won't fit those comparisons anymore. Growth has altered his posture. Perspective has shifted his priorities. He's not here to relive old chapters or reclaim old titles. He's here to move forward with intention. Permission implies limitation, and he has already outgrown that space. Resistance will exist. It always does when someone returns stronger. But resistance only matters when doubt still lives inside. When internal alignment is complete, external opposition becomes irrelevant. He won't fight for a seat at tables that once ignored him. He'll build where he's meant to stand. Doors will open not because he knocks louder, but because he belongs there now. When he returns, it will be evident that the absence was not a retreat. It was preparation. No announcement. No demand. Just execution. And in that moment, permission won't be requested because it will no longer be required. So before you decide he's finished, before you label his silence as failure or his absence as defeat, pause. Some journeys require disappearance. Some transformations demand isolation. What you couldn't see was the work being done when no one was watching, the strength being built where applause couldn't reach. He didn't vanish to escape the pressure. He stepped away to become worthy of it. And now, when he stands again, it won't be to prove anything to anyone. It will be because the time is right, the foundation is solid, and the purpose is clear. Remember this: not everyone who leaves is lost. Some are just getting ready to return as who they were always meant to be.